In a small cafe on one of London's busy streets, Kate Middleton was sipping her coffee like an ordinary citizen. No one had recognized her. She had finally found some peace. But when the conversation of two women sitting at the table next to her reached her ears, the cup in her hand began to tremble. These two strange women were talking about the biggest secret of Kate's life, and what they said shook her so deeply that she rushed to the bathroom and cried before leaving the cafe. That Tuesday morning was special for Kate Middleton. After the intense week spent within the gold-plated walls of Kensington Palace, her soul was crying out for freedom. The children were at their schools, William was in official meetings, and Kate faced a rare opportunity: just being Kate. When she looked in the mirror, she could see her weariness with the perfect image of Princess Catherine. Today would be different. She asked her hairstylist for the simplest bun, used her own hands instead of a makeup artist, and pulled out a navy sweater and jeans from the most modest corner of her wardrobe. "Perfect," she murmured, looking in the mirror. This wasn't Kate Middleton. This was just Kate. When her security detail dropped her off in the heart of Notting Hill, Kate took a deep breath. When she took her first step, she felt a strange lightness in her legs, a feeling she hadn't experienced in years: freedom. As she walked down the street, the weight on her shoulders decreased with each step. People passing by weren't looking at her, trying to recognize her, or trying to take photos. They were just living their own lives. To them, Kate was an ordinary woman, nothing more, nothing less. An elderly man was walking his dog and said good morning to Kate. Simple, sincere, protocol-free. Kate smiled inwardly. Even such a simple greeting was so valuable. When the Lily's Corner Cafe sign appeared, Kate's face lit up. Small, intimate, and most importantly, anonymous. When she looked inside through the window, she saw a simple but cozy atmosphere. It was perfect. When she entered, she was greeted by the smell of coffee and freshly baked cookies. Light jazz music was playing. People were quietly busy with their own affairs. No one looked at her twice. No one started whispering. Kate slowly walked around inside the cafe. Each corner told a different story. Old photographs on the walls, bookshelves, flowers. Everything was so natural, so unpretentious. She chose the corner table, close to the window but not too conspicuous. As she sat down at the table, she sighed. She looked around. Young professionals working on laptops, middle-aged men reading books, groups of friends chatting, normal people, normal lives, normal problems. "What can I get you?" asked the approaching young waitress. There was no recognition in her look at Kate. "An English tea, please." Kate's voice showed her relief. There was no protocol in her voice, just sincerity. The waitress smiled politely and walked away, closing her order book. She hadn't even recognized Kate. How wonderful this freedom was. Kate leaned back in her chair and truly breathed comfortably for the first time that morning. When her tea arrived, Kate sighed and took her first sip. The warmth of a real English tea caressed her soul. Even this simple pleasure felt so good to her. She grasped the cup with both hands and focused on feeling that warmth. She began watching London's busy street through the window. Life was flowing outside, people hurriedly walking on wet sidewalks after the rain, people chatting at bus stops, mothers with children pushing their strollers. Each person was a different story. Kate watched them one by one. A hurried businessman, angry on the phone, a young couple walking hand in hand, an elderly woman struggling with her bags. Each had a dream, a worry, a hope. How Kate missed this normalcy. Her eyes caught on a mother-child pair. The mother was holding her little daughter's hand, telling her something. The child was laughing, skipping, completely innocent and happy. Kate's heart ached. Were George, Charlotte, and Louis like this with her? Or did they always feel under pressure? The conversations around her began reaching her ears. The rhythm of the voices gave her peace. "The boss is giving crazy projects again. I don't know how I'll finish them." Kate turned her head. Two friends were sitting at the table next to her chatting. Normal, ordinary, real problems. My daughter's school performance has dropped. The teacher wants a meeting. There must be a problem. Another mother's voice from a different table caught Kate's attention. Here was this woman also worrying about her child just like Kate. The rent increase came this month. I don't know how we'll pay it. The landlord isn't understanding at all. Each voice reminded Kate that everyone had things they were struggling with. Money problems, child problems, work problems. Maybe she wasn't so different from people after all. Only the type of her problems was different. Kate took another sip of her tea and found herself lost among these voices. For the first time in a long while, she was among normal people living normal lives. Just then, a voice from the table right behind her caught her full attention. Kate froze as she was bringing her tea to her lips. You know, I really feel sorry for Kate Middleton. Kate's cup remained suspended in the air. Her heart stopped for a moment, then began beating rapidly. This voice was very clear, very close. Kate held her breath and listened carefully. Another voice was heard. Why? She had asked curiously. She's living a perfect life. Palace, jewels, designer clothes. She's one of the luckiest women in the world. Kate slowly placed her cup on the table. Her hands had begun to tremble. She wanted to turn around but couldn't find the courage. Did she really want to hear this conversation? The first woman's voice rose again, this time more determined. That's exactly the mistake everyone makes. Everyone thinks that way, but the reality is nothing like that. Kate's stomach churned. What did this woman know about Kate? What would she say? Kate continued looking at her tea, but all her attention was on the conversation behind her. What do you mean? Said the second woman curiously. So you think Kate Middleton isn't happy? Kate's breath became shallow. This conversation was too close, too personal. Her heart was beating so fast she couldn't breathe. The first woman took a deep breath and answered, I don't just think it, I know it, and I can explain the reasons. The first woman continued, My cousin works as cleaning staff at Kensington Palace. She's been there for years. She tells me about Kate's real state. Kate's world turned upside down. Blood rushed to her brain. How was this possible? Was one of her own staff telling outsiders about her private life? Which staff member was this? Kate was counting names in her mind. Really? The second woman asked curiously. So what does she tell you? Kate's breathing became labored. She clasped her hands under the table to stop the trembling. The first thing she told me, the first woman began, lowering her voice a bit more, is that Kate can't sleep for hours at night. My cousin sees Kate tossing and turning in her bed when she's cleaning in the mornings. Sometimes she's awake even at 3 to 4 o'clock. Kate's swallowing was audible. This was so true, so private. She had indeed been suffering from insomnia in recent months. Why couldn't she sleep? Asked the second woman. My cousin says she's constantly anxious. She stares out the window for hours, as if she's forced to think about something. Kate could no longer breathe. Had this woman really been watching her? These details were so clear, so close. The first woman continued, And do you know what the saddest part is? Her voice lowered even more. My cousin hears Kate crying in her own room sometimes, especially after spending time with the children. Kate's heart stopped. This was impossible. No one could know such private details. Why was she crying? The second woman asked, almost in a whisper. Because, the woman took a deep breath. My cousin says Kate felt very lonely. There are so many people around her, but she can't really talk to anyone. She lost herself while trying to please everyone. The second woman said in amazement, Really? But she always appears so strong, so controlled in the media. She's always smiling, always looking perfect. That's her greatest talent, said the first woman with a bitter voice. My cousin says Kate pushes herself so hard to maintain a perfect princess image that she's burning out from the inside. Kate's eyes began to fill with tears. This woman was revealing emotions that Kate couldn't even tell her own mother. "So what you're saying," the second woman asked with even more curiosity, "is that strong appearance is actually a mask?" "Exactly like that. My cousin says Kate sometimes sits at her makeup table crying, but then she dries her face, fixes her makeup, and goes out, as if nothing happened." Kate was now gripping the napkin in her hand. This image was so familiar. "For example," the woman continued, "my cousin says Kate sometimes goes to her room and cries quietly after playing with the children because she thinks she can't be a good enough mother to them." "What do you mean?" The second woman was surprised. "She looks like a perfect mother." "That's the problem," the first woman explained. "Kate is so focused on being the perfect mother that she's forgotten how to be a normal mother. My cousin says Kate sometimes waits at their doors and cries after the children fall asleep because she feels like she can't spend enough time with them." Kate's chest felt tight. This was so real, so close. "And also," the woman added even more quietly, "my cousin says Kate's biggest dream is to be a normal mother, to be able to walk her children in the park, go grocery shopping with them, without anyone watching them." "This is so sad," said the second woman. "We think she's so lucky, but—" "Yes," the first woman cut her off. "My cousin says Kate sometimes says, 'I wish I could be a normal mother.' Isn't that heartbreaking?" Kate was now beginning to lose her control. This conversation was touching too deeply. The first woman continued her speech. "The worst part is, my cousin says Kate sometimes looks in the mirror and asks, 'Am I enough?' Because everyone expects so much from her, but she's just a human being too." This sentence took away Kate's last strength to endure. She felt she needed to get up, but her legs were trembling. "And you know what?" the woman added in an even lower voice. "She says Kate sometimes wants to do something crazy, like run away, build an ordinary life." Kate couldn't bear it anymore. With a sudden movement, she got up and headed toward the bathroom. Her steps were unsteady, her hands were trembling. As she walked to the bathroom, the two women's conversation echoed in her ears. "I really feel sorry for Kate. She looks so strong, but she's actually so fragile." When she entered the bathroom, Kate looked in the mirror. Tears were flowing down her cheeks, but strangely, she felt relieved. This strange woman had seen her. She had seen the real Kate, and she hadn't judged her. On the contrary, she had felt sorry for her, felt sad for her. Kate washed her face with cold water. "Maybe I'm not so alone," she thought. "Maybe people are trying to understand me." She took a deep breath. Hearing this conversation had been painful, but at the same time, it had taught her something too. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her makeup-free face, simple hair, plain clothes. This was the real Kate. And maybe this was the Kate people loved. When she came out of the bathroom, the two women were still talking. But this time, Kate felt stronger. "I wish we could reach her somehow," the second woman was saying. "Tell her how valuable she is." "I would love that too," said the first one. "She's truly a brave woman. She's still standing, despite being under so much pressure." Kate returned to her table and took the last sip of her tea. There was a strange but beautiful warmth inside her. These two women she had randomly encountered had taught her a lot about herself. She didn't have to try to be perfect. Just being real was enough. Kate paid her bill, and as she was leaving, she passed by those two women's table. She paused for a moment and smiled at them. Just a kind, ordinary smile. The two women returned her smile. They still hadn't recognized Kate, but they had felt her warmth. When she stepped outside the cafe, Kate took a deep breath. London's cold air felt good on her face, but this coldness no longer frightened her. She took out her phone and texted William. "Let's have a warm family dinner at home tonight. No formalities at all, just us." William immediately replied, "Great idea." "I love you." Kate smiled. Yes, she didn't have to be perfect. Just being loving was enough. When she returned home that day, she hugged her children differently than usual. She hugged them tighter, loved them longer. "Mom, why are you so happy today?" Charlotte asked. "Because I learned something very important today," Kate said. "Instead of trying to be perfect, I decided to just be myself." "But you're already perfect," said George. Kate's eyes filled with tears, but this time from happiness. That evening at dinner, Kate told her children, "Sometimes people watch us and talk about us, but that's not a bad thing, because most people are understanding and kind-hearted." That afternoon at the cafe had changed Kate's life. She was now judging herself less and accepting herself more, and most importantly, she now knew she wasn't completely alone. There, in a small cafe, two strange women had stood up for her and tried to understand her. This story teaches us that sometimes the most valuable lessons come from the most unexpected places, and sometimes just listening can change our lives. Kate Middleton had gone to the cafe that day just to drink tea, but she had actually found herself. If you want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and click the like button. See you in the next video.